My sister pointed a gun at me and said, "Sign the papers or else." My dad watched silently. I didn't sign. I just smiled and said, "Look at this." She did and went pale. 5 seconds later, there was a loud bang. That's where the day ended, but where it began, it looked like nothing more than a family get-together. We'd rented a small house outside the city, a plain, practical place with beige walls, mismatched chairs, and a table already set when I walked in. It felt a little like someone else's vacation rental. And I guess technically that's what it was. Mom was fussing in the kitchen, unpacking groceries from paper bags, a loaf of bread, a bunch of bananas, sandwich meat. The kind of food you buy when you want to look like you made an effort without really cooking. "Hi, honey," she called, smiling too brightly, as if this was all perfectly normal. Dad followed behind her, carrying a cooler with the slow heaviness of a man who never rushes unless he has to. He nodded at me, not cold, not warm, just Dad. Then came my sister, sunglasses, hair brushed to perfection, perfume already filling the air. She kissed the air next to my cheek. "Glad you made it," she said. For a while it felt ordinary, like maybe this really was just a family day. The kind where Mom sets out too much food, Dad sits at the head of the table, and my sister talks about the traffic on the way over. We even went for a short walk before lunch. The path behind the house looped around a small field. My mom pointed out some wildflowers. My dad made a comment about the weather, and my sister scrolled through her phone when she thought no one was looking. It was the kind of walk families take when they don't know what else to do with themselves. I answered their questions politely, kept my voice light. From the outside, we probably looked like a normal family, spending a normal Saturday together. Back at the house, Mom got busy arranging food on plates. Sandwiches cut into triangles, potato chips poured into a bowl, fruit piled high in the center. She always overdid it, even when there were only 3 of us. "Eat something," she said, pushing a plate toward me like it was her mission. "I already ate," I said. She laughed it off, but I saw the flicker in her eyes. She wanted everything to look perfect, even if it wasn't. We sat down together, Dad at the head of the table, Mom to his right, my sister next to me. For a while, the only sounds were forks and glasses. The kind of silence you don't notice until you realize no one said a real thing in minutes. Then my sister spoke, light and casual, as though she'd just thought of it. "So, are you going to do something fun with the inheritance?" The word landed like a stone in a still pond. My mom looked down at her plate. My dad took a sip of water. My sister's eyes stayed locked on me, too bright, too fixed. I shrugged. "I haven't decided yet." Her smile twitched. "You've got options, at least, more than the rest of us." Dad cleared his throat. "Family should share," he said softly. "It's the right thing." I sipped my coffee. "We'll see." Mom jumped in quickly, changing the subject. She asked about my apartment, my work, but the mood had already shifted. The inheritance sat at the table with us now, heavier than the food, louder than the silence. We ate a little more. My sister made small digs disguised as jokes. Dad mostly stayed quiet. Mom kept asking if I wanted more fruit. Then, after a pause long enough to make the air feel stiff, my sister pushed her plate away and smiled. "Come with us," she said. "We want to show you something." Her tone was light, but something in me tightened. Dad stood. His chair scraped the floor. He didn't meet my eyes. They led me down the hallway into a spare room. No pictures, no decorations, just a table, 2 chairs, and a stack of papers waiting in the middle. "This will make everything simpler," my sister said, sliding the papers toward me. Dad stood near the door, arms crossed, silent. I sat, picked up the first page, legal words stacked neatly across the paper. I flipped to the second, then the third. My breath slowed. It was a waiver. A document stating I gave up all rights to the inheritance and transferred everything to them. Not a share, not even a split. Everything. I let out a dry laugh. "Are you serious? You actually expect me to sign this?" My sister didn't flinch. "It's what he would have wanted." "Really?" I asked. "Did he send you a memo?" Dad's voice was sharp. "Don't be difficult." "It's not difficult," I said. "It's ridiculous." The pen sat waiting on the table. My sister nudged it toward me. "Let's be adults," she said. "We can do this quickly and with dignity." "Dignity?" I raised my eyebrows. "This is daylight robbery with stationery." Her face flushed. "You don't deserve it." "Maybe not," I said, "but I'm not signing it." Her chair screeched as she stood. "Sign it." "No." The word hung there, bigger than it should have been. My dad's eyes narrowed. You'll regret this. I looked back at him calmly. I regret showing up. And then, in one smooth motion, my sister reached into her bag and pulled out a gun. The room went silent. Even the hum of the lamp seemed to cut out. From the kitchen, my mom's voice floated down the hall. Tea's almost ready. My sister leveled the barrel at me. Sign the papers, she said, or else. My dad stayed frozen by the door. His silence said more than words. I put the pen down gently. No, I said again. The air felt heavy, pressing against my skin. Then I smiled, small, deliberate, and pointed past her to the corner of the room. Look at this. Her head whipped around. My dad followed. Their eyes landed on the black dot in the corner of the wall. My sister's face drained. What? What is that? Is that a camera? Say hello, I said. You're being filmed. She spun back toward me, panic flooding her face, then back to the lens. You can't, she stammered, but stopped. The gun shook in her hands. She raised it toward the camera. Her voice cracked. Turn it off. Can't, I said. It's working fine. Her eyes darted from me to the lens. Desperate, she pulled the trigger. The bang ripped through the room. Mom gasped in the kitchen, dropping a spoon. The camera stayed standing, its little red light still glowing. My sister's eyes widened, confusion written all over her face. My dad stared at me, pale and speechless. I sat still, calm on the outside, everything else tight inside, and the camera kept watching, steady and unblinking. If you want to understand why that day with the gun happened, you have to go back a bit. I grew up in a family where I was the middle child, which already tells you most of the story. I wasn't the golden firstborn, and I wasn't the baby who could do no wrong. I was the one in the middle, the one who got lost in the shuffle. So I made noise. That was my role. If I couldn't get noticed by being good, I'd get noticed by being bad. I was the kid climbing fences, sneaking out at night, jumping off sheds with an umbrella to see if it would slow me down. I wasn't suicidal. I just liked the rush. I liked knowing I was doing something I shouldn't. In a weird way, it was the only time I felt alive, because at least then, someone had to look at me. If I came home bleeding, at least my mom had to put down her magazine. If I mouthed off at dinner, at least my dad had to look at me. That was the bargain. I learned early on that bad attention was better than no attention at all. My sister hated me for it. She was older, the responsible one, the one my parents bragged about. She thought I was an embarrassment. Maybe I was. But she didn't just ignore me. She went out of her way to remind me how much better she was. Perfect grades, perfect friends, perfect smile. And then behind closed doors, she'd twist the knife. Why can't you get it together? No wonder they don't trust you. My younger brother was different. Not exactly close, but he saw me. He'd sit with me, roll his eyes at our parents, and sometimes even cover for me when I did something stupid. He was the only one who made me feel like I wasn't completely alone in that house. By the time I was 18, I couldn't take it anymore. I packed a bag and left. No safety net, no college fund waiting, nothing. Just me and whatever I could scrape together. It wasn't easy, but I preferred struggling on my own to suffocating at home. The one person I missed was my grandfather. He was nothing like the rest of them. Where my parents cared about looking good, Grandpa didn't care at all. He wore the same clothes for years. His shoes were scuffed. He'd show up to birthdays with a card from the discount store and a handshake like he'd just dug a ditch. My mom used to mutter, "He looks like a homeless man." My dad would sigh and shake his head like Grandpa embarrassed the family. But I liked him. I liked that he didn't play the same games as the rest of them. He didn't try to impress anyone. He didn't even seem to notice when people rolled their eyes. He'd tell me stories about his old jobs, the places he lived, people he knew. None of it glamorous, but all of it real. And I craved real. Sometimes, when we went out for coffee, I'd pay for him because I thought he couldn't afford it. He'd smile at me like he knew something I didn't. Every once in a while, he'd say things that stuck, like, even if I was rich, I'd live exactly the same. Because once people know you've got money, they stop seeing you. All they see is what they want from you. I always thought he was joking, just Grandpa being quirky. He lived until 96. When he died, it wasn't a shock, but it still hurt. He'd been the only one in that family who really saw me. So when we got called for the will reading, I didn't expect much. None of us did. Grandpa never looked like he had anything. My parents went because it was formal. My sister went because she was curious. My brother went because he had to. We sat in the lawyer's office, all lined up in stiff chairs. The carpet smelled like dust and coffee. My sister leaned over to my brother and whispered, "What do you think we're getting? His old trousers?" My dad chuckled. "Maybe his socks, the ones with the holes." Mom shook her head. "Probably some old junk he couldn't throw out." I sat there quietly, biting the inside of my cheek. They'd spent years mocking him, and here they were, still at it, even after he was gone. The lawyer came in with a folder. He cleared his throat and started reading. "Your father, your grandfather, expressed his final wishes in this document." No one leaned forward. My sister checked her nails. My mom shifted in her chair. My dad sighed. Then the lawyer said my name. He wished to leave his estate to his granddaughter. The room froze. My sister blinked, then barked out a laugh. "Her? What? His collection of coffee mugs?" My dad frowned. "What exactly did he leave her?" The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "Everything." Silence. You could have heard the carpet breathe. My sister smirked. "Everything? What? A couple $100?" The lawyer glanced at his papers. "The estate is valued at approximately $8.5 million. The words hung there like a bad joke no one wanted to claim. Mom gasped. Dad sat up straight. My sister shook her head. "That's impossible," she snapped. "He had nothing. He wore the same shirt for 10 years. "He invested," the lawyer said calmly, "for decades. Modest amounts, consistent growth, compounding over time. It built into a substantial fortune." My dad's face went red. "This is outrageous. I'm his son. That money should be mine." Mom nodded quickly. "Or ours, not just hers." My sister's voice sharpened. "She doesn't deserve it. She didn't even do anything." I sat there, my hands folded in my lap, pulse racing. For once in my life, they were all looking at me. Not invisible, not ignored, seen. I gave a half shrug. Guess he disagreed. That's when their eyes really burned into me. My sister's fury, my dad's disbelief, my mom's disappointment. I'd wanted attention my whole life. This was not how I thought it would feel. The lawyer kept talking, explaining terms, details, whatever. I barely heard him. All I could hear was the silence around me, heavy with shock and anger. They had spent years laughing at him for looking poor, and now the man they mocked had left behind a fortune, and he'd left it all to me. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't going to end here. The bang was still hanging in the room like an echo that didn't know where to go. Nobody moved. My sister stared at the corner, waiting for the camera to fall. It didn't. The little red light just kept glowing, steady and smug. My dad's mouth twitched, like he wanted to speak, but forgot how. "Why didn't it break?" my sister whispered, more to herself than anyone. I didn't answer. Sometimes silence says more than a lecture. Her grip tightened. Another shot cracked through the room. The lamp flickered, the air jolted, and still the camera didn't move. She lowered the gun, breathing fast. "What is wrong with this thing?" "Plenty," I said, "but not what you think." That's when the footsteps came. Firm, heavy, too controlled to be family. The door burst open and 2 men stepped inside. Not uniforms, not relatives, the kind of presence that rearranges the room without asking. "Put it down," one said, calm but absolute. My sister flinched, swung the gun toward them, her hand shaking so badly the barrel wavered. "Don't make this worse," the other said. "On the table now." For a second, she looked like a child mid-tantrum, torn between scream and surrender. Then her wrist gave out. The gun clattered onto the table. One guard snatched it away, slid it out of reach, and cuffed her hands quick and clean. The other put a steady hand on my dad's shoulder. He froze. The room exhaled for the first time in minutes. I looked at my sister, wide-eyed and cornered. "Everything's recorded," I said quietly. "You're not walking away from this." She glared back, words ready but useless. And that's where I'll pause and explain. Not to them, to you, because you're probably wondering how I knew. How I wasn't shaking out of my skin when my sister pulled a gun on me. How I sat there steady while my dad played statue. The truth is, I did shake, just not where they could see it. A few days earlier, my younger brother had called me. His voice was tight, nervous. He said he overheard something, my parents and my sister talking. He didn't give details, didn't want to be dragged into it, but he told me enough. Enough that I froze, enough that I knew. I didn't want to believe him. I told myself they'd never go that far, but deep down I knew what my family was capable of. And I'll admit it, part of me wanted to test them. I've always been like that. When I was a kid, I jumped off sheds with umbrellas just to see if they'd slow me down, climbed fences because someone told me not to. I like the rush. I like the danger. When you've been invisible your whole life, you chase whatever makes people look at you. So yes, I went because I wanted to see. And because a little piece of me hoped maybe I was wrong, that they'd act like decent human beings for once, that maybe we'd eat Mom's sandwiches, bicker about nothing, and call it a day. If they had shown me kindness, maybe I would have shared some of it. Maybe. But I wasn't about to gamble my life on that chance. So I hired professionals, not the police, private security, two men who knew what they were doing. They told me not to go, told me it was reckless, that it wasn't worth it. I said I was going anyway, so they backed me. They went in early, swept the house, set up hidden cameras. While I walked with my family outside, they checked every corner, and they found the gun. They didn't take it. They didn't need to. They just made sure it wouldn't fire the way my sister expected. When she pulled that trigger, all she got was sound and smoke. Then they waited outside, ready, listening, watching. So no, it wasn't luck, not a miracle, not fate. It was planned. Every second of it. And now it was them, not me, who were trapped. The legal process crawled, the way those things always do. Months of hearings, paperwork, lawyers arguing over words I barely understood. And then, finally, it was finished. The estate was settled. I was the sole heir. Every last cent was mine. Hearing it spoken in court didn't feel triumphant. It felt strange, like the ground shifted under me and I was still waiting for balance. For so long I'd braced myself for someone to take it away. Now there was no one left who could. My family's trials ran parallel to mine. My sister stood in court first. 7 years. The judge didn't mince words. Threatening someone with a firearm leaves no room for excuses. She tried tears, but it was too late. My dad's turn came next. He didn't pull the trigger, but he stood there and let it happen. 2 years. The look on his face said he thought silence was safer. He was wrong. My mom was last. She'd stayed in the background, convinced that would protect her. It didn't. Probation, community service, a record that would follow her anyway. I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel vindicated. Watching them be let out of court, I just felt tired. The kind of tired you only get after years of carrying weight you didn't ask for. But underneath the exhaustion was something else. Space. For the first time, there was room to imagine a life that was mine. Not one they dictated. Not one built around being the overlooked child or the scapegoat. A life where I could decide what mattered. When I walked out of that courthouse, the cameras were still running in my head, capturing a different kind of scene. No shouting, no papers shoved across tables, no guns pulled out of handbags. Just me stepping forward with nothing and no one holding me back anymore. 5 years later, my life looks completely different. After the trial ended, after the money was finally mine, I did something my younger self never thought possible. I built my own family. I got married. We have a little girl now. From the outside, we look like everyone else. A modest house in a quiet neighborhood. A sensible car in the driveway. Neighbors who chat about the weather and whose kids play in the street. To anyone watching, we're a middle-class family living a middle-class life. But the truth is that money changed everything. Quietly. I used it the way Grandpa would have wanted. Smartly, not loudly. I invested just like he did. I set up a trust fund for my daughter, not to spoil her, but to make sure she'll always be safe when she's grown. For now, she doesn't know how much we have. She doesn't need to. She's busy being a kid, and that's exactly how it should be. I didn't hoard it all for myself, either. My younger brother, the one who warned me, got what he deserved too. I paid for his college, cleared his debts, helped him get his first apartment. He never asked, and that's why I trusted him with it. Now he's making his own life, standing on his own 2 feet. As for me, I do spend it. I've traveled the world. Italy, Japan, even the Maldives. I've stayed in beautiful hotels, eaten food that still makes me smile when I think of it. I buy comfort when I want to, freedom when I need it. But when I'm home, I dress simply. I shop at the same grocery store as everyone else. To the outside world, nothing looks unusual. That's the way I like it, because I finally understand what Grandpa meant. If people think you're rich, they'll only ever see the money. If they think you're ordinary, you get to live free. I still chase a little adrenaline now and then. Skydiving, scuba diving, climbing mountains. But I do it safely. I've learned how to feed that part of myself without breaking everything else. At the end of the day, I don't need strangers to see wealth on me. I need my daughter to grow up safe, happy, and free.